He was met there by one belligerent and forceful spirit. Today's episode of Nite Terrors is called Spiritual Warfare. So this comes to us from a viewer who is a spiritual worker. Now, he was at work one day, and one of his fellow coworkers had a troubled expression on his face. Whenever he asked him what was wrong, he said, "My house is haunted." He said, "It doesn't bother my wife, but it torments me. If I'm in the living room, it knocks things off the fireplace mantel. It knocks pictures off the wall. Once it threw something at me." So we're going to call him Clyde. So Clyde agreed to do what he could to rid this ghost from his coworker's home. Only after he asked his angels if this is something that he was able to do and if it was his opportunity to be of service to his coworker. They said it was. That's very important in spiritual work, you see, only taking opportunities that are meant for you. Now, understand that a ghost is nothing but a soul attached to something physical or to a person that it loved while it was alive. Or they are confused about where they need to be. Usually, they don't realize they're dead and only need instructions on what to do next. Some can be a challenge, and some can be dangerous if you're not fully prepared. Clyde told him, "I don't need to come to your house, that I could do this in spirit." He gave him a quarter to place on his table in his living room. Clyde put his energy into the quarter, and that would follow him back to his house. He didn't give a time frame that he would need to get this done, but only said it would take a couple days for him and for him to be patient. This was on a Monday, and Clyde asked his angels to show him a good time to accomplish this goal. They said that Thursday would be a good day. So he went about setting up the needed injury and additional angels that he would need for reinforcement and setting the time for Thursday night. Things went as usual the rest of the day, and Tuesday was just another day at work. Tuesday night was a little bit different. Clyde has a tendency to get ahead of himself sometimes, and he decided he would look in on his friend and see what was going on. He arrived at his house, spiritually, around 7 p.m. He was met there by one belligerent and forceful spirit. The spirit demanded to know what I was doing there and demanded that Clyde leave. Clyde hesitated, and he rushed him. The spirit rushed him. Clyde made a hasty retreat back to his home that was sealed with positive energy as he left. That was to keep out any unclean spirits while his body lay there unprotected. Now, Clyde lived on a rural piece of land, and the entire property was cleansed and sealed every day to safeguard his things while he was at work. Once back at home, Clyde breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that he was safe, and he spiritually cleansed himself of what he had encountered and set about his normal routine. As he left for work the next morning, he found that a gate post on his gravel driveway had been sheared off perfectly even with the ground, as if it had been cut with a saw. However, there were no wood shavings. It was a smooth break, no jagged edges. This post was about 10 inches in diameter. It would take a lot of force to break it. Not only was it a physical boundary, it was a spiritual boundary, sealed with energy to protect Clyde. There was a chain padlocked around that post to a tree on the other side of the driveway. The post had a farm gate nailed to it, and the other end of the gate was nailed to the tree. The only thing holding the post up when he released the chain was the gate. He thought someone had ran into the chain with a car in the middle of the night and broke the post. But there were no fresh tire tracks and no marks on the chain or the post. Clyde thought that was strange. He locked the chain around the post to hold it in place and left for work. He decided he would repair it when he got home that evening. That was Wednesday, and other than the gate incident, there was nothing unusual going on. Repairing the gate required digging another hole in the rock-hard clay about 2 feet deep and resetting that post. That took almost 2 hours. The rest of the evening went well. Supper was well deserved after all that digging. Thursday morning, Clyde headed off to work again, through that same chain that was attached to the same post that was still where he put it. But it was still on his mind. Who broke that post? What broke that post? As Thursday rolled around, he was mentally preparing once again to meet this haunt face to face. Once in from work, he cooked his supper and bathed as usual and relaxed before his appointment time. He proceeded to contact his angels and the extra angels that he had asked to join him for the evening. He stretched out on his bed, cleansed himself thoroughly, spiritually, relaxed, and projected his energy out of his body towards his friend's home. Arriving there almost instantly, he was once again greeted by that belligerent soul. "What the hell are you doing back in my house?" the soul screamed. "Get out." Clyde calmly told him this wasn't his house any longer. "What the hell you mean this ain't my house?" Clyde thought he was about to attack him again. "I built this house in 1947 and I've lived here ever since." Feeling the energy of all those angels around us, Clyde calmly stated, "That may be true, but this isn't your house any longer." "According to who?" the spirit screamed. Clyde said, "You're probably not aware of the fact that you're dead, and other people live here now." The spirit's eyes got really big with surprise, and he said, "What?" Clyde said, "You're dead." "But how did I die?" Clyde said, "I don't know, and that's not important now." The spirit looked bewildered and said, "Dead? That can't be. My wife and I live here." Then he looked even more bewildered and said, "I haven't seen her in a while. I was wondering where she was." Clyde told him she probably lives somewhere else now, maybe with your children, or maybe she's passed on as well. He then told him to clap his hands. When he did, of course, there was no sound. He told him, "That's because you no longer have a body." He was still standing there trying to figure out what was going on, and he said, "I wondered who those other people were wandering around in my house and where all this new stuff came from." He still looked puzzled, so Clyde told him that there were other places he needed to be and other things he needed to be doing. Clyde showed him that his angels had been waiting for him and told him he needed to go with him. "This life is fulfilled for you." He slowly turned to leave, but turned back towards Clyde and said, "I'm sorry about your gate." He had broken the gate post when he hit the chain the night that he came after Clyde, but he hadn't gotten through that spiritual boundary. This gives you an idea of how strong the spirit of an ordinary person can be when it wants to be. Having no body to encumber them, they can become very powerful. Keep this in mind if you ever decide to play in the spiritual realms. Clyde guarantees you it's not for the unprepared. If you decide that type of thing's for you, be sure to get adequate training first. So what do you think about this one? Drop a comment down below and let me know. That's all I have for you today. Be safe, be kind, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to Nite Terrors. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that like button and drop a comment below. And don't forget to click the link in the description to send in your encounter story to be featured on an episode of Nite Terrors. Also, you can see what else is going on in the Night Callers world. Thank you, everybody.